What a lovely fish. Absolute, my favourite fish roach in perfect condition. Absolutely bang on a single cast that was even spud it up the line. Got to be every bit of a pound. Look at that, beautiful. I'll just get my long legs out. So much easier when you can just fire out to the end of your pole with both hands free. I'm Dickie Carr and I'm going to talk to you today about poles and pole fishing. I've been British pole champion twice in the last few years, big head, and so I'm going to run through all the range of poles. Must admit I have cheated on this a little bit because I often get asked what poles to buy in the cheap range, and to be quite honest I have to say I don't know. So when I was asked to do this, I had to go into Leslie's of Luton because they've got most of the poles on the market, and I had a real good look through all the poles and I came out with what I thought was good value for money and good poles to use in the, say, up to £400 range. So I've got them laid out in front of me, and I'll start with probably one of the cheapest poles, which I think is very good value for money. It's the Browning Pro Country 110. It's a nice pole. I've got it out and I've looked at it in the shop at full length, and it's good value for money. The next one, just going up a little bit more, is it's another Browning pole. It's the Euro Winner 120. Now that sells for around about £300, and that goes up to 12 metres, which again, it's good value for money, and it's a nice pole to use. The other poles that impressed me too were the Jaguar Mark II. That goes up to just under 11 metres. Now that pole is a lovely pole for around £200, very good value for money again. Now the other pole too that I looked at quite a few round about the £350 to £400 range, and the Team Dyra was the one that impressed me very much as well, and a very good value for money for round about £400. Exceptionally good value for money. Now all these poles, there are so many different poles on the market that it is a job to know what to buy, especially when you're starting. But as I say, I've had a look at probably 35 poles in Leslie's all around that range, and these are the four that I picked out. And what I've also brought along to show you is my own pole, which again I've cleaned it up especially for the cameras. I've washed it, which is something I don't very often do, and this one is the Dyra Tournament. Now when I tell you this pole cost over £2,000, in excess of £2,000, oh dear me, you'll say, why should one pole be so much dearer than all the others? Well, for a start it's 14 metres, but as you say, that doesn't warrant the extra price. But what does warrant the extra price with these expensive poles is the fact that there's a lot stiffer, they're a lot lighter, and they just work better, to be perfectly honest. I'm not much into all this technical stuff, but I must admit it is, well, at the moment, probably the best pole on the market. So we'll forget that one for a little while, and what I am going to do later on, I've actually got a new top joint for it, which I am going to actually elasticate for you and show you how to elasticate the poles. But while I'm talking about poles, what I will tell you too with pole fishing is, a lot of people think, you know, why buy a 12-metre pole to start with? Is it a bit too long to start fishing with? Well, my honest opinion with pole fishing is, it's just like if you went out and you bought yourself a new Jaguar car. I just thought of Jaguar because of the pole here. You'd get in it and you'd put your foot down and you think, by golly, does that accelerate fast? And it'll probably frighten you. And pole fishing, it's a funny way to put it, but it's similar. You start off, say, fishing 7 metres, and you think, oh, that's terribly long, 7 metres. And after you've used it 3 or 4 times, you think, cool, that's not very long, and you go up to 8 metres. You use that a couple of times, and you think, cool, I can handle 9 metres. And by the end, you've bought an 11-metre pole, and you think, cool, I wish I bought a 12-metre pole, so you intend to go and buy another pole. So that's a comparison of why people go in for the longer poles. And the only other thing I will say is why pole fishing has become so popular, especially over the last few years, apart from the World Championships all being pole fishing and England doing so well, is the fact that it's all about presentation. And when you fish now, with the venues getting fished on, and especially on matches, the fish want the bait presented absolutely perfect. Sometimes during the winter months, we intend to want the bait dead still. Other times we need to lift the bait and drop it. And with these long poles, we can get perfect presentation, and that is what pole fishing is all about, presentation. Well, as you can see, it has started to rain, and it started to rain quite heavy, and I can assure you, I don't normally sit and do this out in the rain. I'm not quite that silly, although some people might say different. I've got everything laid out here. As I say, normally I'd do this in the kitchen, but I thought I'd do it here today out in the fresh air to show you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to elasticate the top joint of my pole. When I elasticate poles, I only ever put it through the top joint. I don't believe in having it right through 2 joints, because I think you get the elastics hang out the end, and also I think you don't miss so many fish having a short bit of elastic through it. But what I will say, if I was fishing for real big fish, then I'd use one of these uni plugs which you cut down to go into the end. But as I say, I'm only going to put it through the top joint, so we'll start and have a look how to do it. Right, I've got the pole there. The first thing I've got to do is to put a PTFE in the end. Now I've got an assortment here, if you can see them through the rain, of PTFEs of all different sizes. And I know for a fact that I've got to cut the pole back a small amount, because the elastic I'm going to put in is a number 3. Now I've got 3 or 4 different elastics here which I'll show you. There's a Zim elastic, which is an exceptionally good elastic. Preston Innovation elastic, very popular, another very good elastic. And a new one out, Future, that's another very good elastic. So the one I'm going to put in, number 3, is the Preston Innovation elastic. So I'll take that out for a start, and I'll lay that down there so that's ready. But the first thing I've got to do, I did cheat a little bit. I already looked to see how far I had to cut back, so I know I've got to cut this back a little bit. So I'm going to just cut it back a little bit at a time. I've got a little small axe saw here, so we'll start off about there and see. Bear with me while I'm doing this. It's not the best of my things, is sawing and messing about with bits and pieces, but I've done so many of these that I actually got quite efficient at doing it now. Got to I should probably finish up having to cut it a bit further back than this, but I don't want to cut too much back. Come on, hurry up. That's it. Now just rub it down a little bit. I normally use Henry paper, but I can't find none in my box. So what I've done with that, I don't know. So I'm just using a little file. Lay that there a minute and let's try some of these PTFEs. There we are. And now let's see how that, see if me luck's in, see if I've had if it fits nice. Oops, come in. See, my old nerves are a little bit bad. Look at that. Couldn't have done that better. What a lovely fit. I haven't got to glue that in or nothing. What a beautiful fit. Right, that's in there nice. Now the next job that I'm going to do is put me Stompo on. So what I'll do now, I'll get the elastic and I'll get the Stompo, which I've got laid down here. That's the little end bit. I'll thread all that through and leave that on there like that. Now the next thing is the actual Stompo. I've got that laying here. Now as you can see, there's a little hole in there with a groove. So if I thread all that through the hole, right, then just tie it in just an ordinary straightforward knot. Put that through. Put that through once and pull it right in the middle of that groove. See how it's right in the middle? Like that. Lovely. Now just do it again. Exactly the same knot again. Through we come. Pull it again. Right in. Right in the middle. Normally, what I'd have to do, I'd have to wet the elastic, get a nice tight knot, but because it's raining out here, I haven't even got to wet it today. Right, now I'm going to cut it off. I'm not going to cut it right tight. Oops. I'm going to cut it off and leave about 1/8 of an inch. Like that. Lay that down there. And as you can see, I've got about 1/8 of an inch. Now, if I push this back over the top, up she comes, push that over, and if you look closely, as you can see, I've got that little bit sticking out there. Now that little bit sticking out there stops it from slipping through if you get a big fish and there's a lot of pressure on, it sort of holds the knot tight. So then that's a nice fit. Now the next thing I'll do, I've got my pole top. Now if I hold it here, hold the Stompo like that, and I'll finish myself and then cut it off about 1/2 inch up from the end of the pole. Okay. So now all I've got now is the Stompo on a bit of elastic, and that elastic is 1/2 inch shorter than the pole tip. Next thing is get my pole threader, which I've already unwound. I thought I'd better unwind it now because when I do it, it always seems to tangle up for some reason or the other. So I untangled it early so that it was all ready for you. So you need to put that through. And as you can see at the end of the threader, I've got a nice little push the elastic through and then just pull it into the tight bit at the end so that it can't pull out. You see that? And then all I need to do then is turn the pole slightly round and pull it through gently. Here it comes, just pulling it through very gently. Here we are, the elastic's out the other end. I hold it there, pull the elastic down and out, lay the threader out the way. Now the next thing I've got to do is put a loop in the end there. So if I hold that like that, just an ordinary simple loop. Oops, I'm giving myself a little bit more elastic. Through once, go through, There we are. As I say, I haven't got a wetly line because we've got the moisture outside. Just cut that off, give it a little bit extra pull. Cut that off. Leave about 1/8 of an inch again. Here we are. That's all ready. Now the next thing, now in here, I've got another little Stomp-O gadget. A little plug that we call them. See a little plug there? I'll hold it on my hand. Right, you can see that. Now, all I do is hold that and put it in the little loop there, into the groove, and let that go into the pole. Now, one last thing. I've done all that now. That's all ready. All I've got to do now is get my slip, hold it like that. Again, pull my plug out like that, hold it there like that, and drip it in. See it going in? Now the idea of that is so that the elastic doesn't hang out the end of the pole when I play a big fish and you get a bit of stretch on. Put that like that. Okay. Let the elastic go back in like that. That's a nice neat fit. I'm just going to give it a quick shake so that everything's all down the pole. Right, now look at that, it's a lovely neat job, and you watch, I can pull it right out. Look at that. See all that stretch, all that's all the pressure the fish can have on the line, and I should hopefully, I'm going to let it go and it's going to go straight back to where it was. Perfect. And that's as simple as that. And what's that? Took me 5 minutes. And if I can do it, I'll guarantee you, if I can put elastic in a pole, anybody can, because these sort of things I'm not normally very good at. Right, let's have a look at some bits and pieces that are interesting that you need for pole fishing. Here I've got a right assortment of bits and pieces laid out, but basically what we want to do when we go pole fishing is get our gear put on pole winders like that. So if I lay them down, basically what you need is to have all your rigs on winders ready. So what you need to get to make sure, of course you've got to buy a few winders. Other bits and pieces that you need basically to make them up, of course, is floats, line, shots, hooks, and they're basically what you need to make everything up. But what I've done here, I've got this board here which I've got a few different floats on. Now I'm just going to go through them quick. Running water floats, see the shape how it's rounded at the top? They're for holding back, for running water, for edging it along. That one's like a little bottle for holding back dead still. And then we come to these Anesti number 10s. They're ideal for still water and canals and lakes. These are bigger floats for deep water, very deep water, still water, running water. That one's just one for fishing to hand. And here we have a few canal floats, just along there. Shallow water canal floats, and that's basically just a few that I've got on winders for you. These are just little bleak floats and bottom ends at the end. Put them ones down. Now we come to the hooks. I've got some hooks here on the board. They're the ones I prefer to use myself. They're the Kamakatsus 6313s, but they're a barbless hook, and if you're starting off pole fishing, I wouldn't recommend you to use them. I'd recommend you to use something like this. This is the Kamasand B511, because they've got a micro barb on, and you've got less chance when you're pushing the pole behind you of the fish coming off. So a very good hook to start off pole fishing with. Right, I've shown you the hooks. Now the other little bits and pieces I think that you need to have when you pole fish. Line, well, my favourite line for pole fishing is Tecton. I think it's exceptionally good to, it's even coming untangled, unwrapped. Tecton, a very good line. I prefer to use that on my pole rigs, and what I'd recommend really, when you start off, whatever line you do your rigs up with, if you're starting off, you use something like a £1.5 breaking strain, which will be something like an 08. Myself, I use an 07, but for starting off, if you're not been doing a lot of pole fishing, use something like an 08. That's a good, nice size line. This is just for me hook lengths. I use this Pro stuff. I think it's exceptionally good, but there's quite a few good hook length lines on the market. Not quite as dear as this. There is the Bayer hook length, that's very good. There's quite a few lines that are a reasonable price. Shots, it's always best to buy one of these tubs of shots. For pole fishing, you don't need big shots. These run from a size 8 round to a size 13. Nice to have one of them for pole fishing in your box. Another little thing, Tipex, that's to mark the depth. I like to have that in my box when I'm pole fishing. Here's just a black marker pen. I like to have one of those in my box. Always, sometimes you're fishing with a nice dark background and then a sort of yellow or an orange float stands out lovely, where another time you might be in the open, and when you're in the open you get a lightish background and the red and the yellow you can't see, so you can just mark over with a black pen and blacken it out. Now we come to the olivettes. This is quite a big olivette. I've sorted out a big one to show you. These olivettes, I think they're the bob nub tungsten ones, them ones, but quite a good olivette. What I like to do with olivettes, as I'll show you later on when you see me rigs, anything from sort of ½ gram onwards, I use our olivettes. Anything under ½ gram, I use little shots like the ones just here, what I was showing you earlier on. So my golden rule is anything over ½ gram, olivettes. Anything under ½ gram, shots. If I put them down. Here is just another little one of my boxes with a few bigger pole rigs in, which I don't know why it's there, but it's just laying there, so I'll open it up. And the last thing I'm going to show you is this. It's from Preston Innovation. You might look at it and say, what is it? Well, what it actually is it's actually a pole float shotter. If I take it out, I'm quite impressed with this. What you do is, when I get it out, come out. You actually put this, let's put that under there so it don't blow away, because I don't like to leave any mess on the bank. But you actually, let me get a float out. Get myself a float out. You actually push the float. You can see there's a small little hole in the centre there. Push the float in there. See how the float stands up like that? If I turn this over, you can see what I mean. You drop that into a bucket of water and you get your small shots. Hold on, bear with me a moment. Remember, this would be floating if it was in a bucket of water, which it's not. And you just drop them in with this. Grab one. Grab 2 or 3, drop them in, actually inside, and it takes it down and it can actually shot the float indoors and then shot it down to whatever you like. And I find these exceptionally good. The reason I've got a new one is my one was in such a state where it's been messed about and that I thought I'd better get a nice brand new one to show you, but absolutely brilliant. Let's lay that down there. You can see how it works. And I think if you go pole, well, look at that. Why didn't I think of that before? And just sits there like that, and that goes down in the water, and it is absolutely perfect shotting. So that's a useful little gadget, because there's nothing worse than getting to the bank and having to spend half an hour setting your rigs up. So basically, they're all the little bits and pieces you need. So now I'm gonna move over to the smaller lake where there's a little bit more colour, and I'm gonna tackle up and we'll see if we can catch a few fish for you. Where to fish? Well, I'm going to settle down here. Reason being, it looks like it's well fished. And if there's a place that's been well fished, that normally means that there's a few fish about. So this has been well worn. By looking at it, I can see that it's been fished in the last couple of days. I haven't fished this venue before, so I'm just gonna look for where it's been fished. Let's get this gear off. It's always a good idea to look to swims that have been fished, because that means there's been a bit of bait gone in. Put that down. I'll put my long legs on. Look at that for a nice bright catty, eh? I'm not going to leave that behind, am I? Look at the state of everything. I do. No, it won't. Where's my towel? Let's just throw this together quick. I'm what you call well organised. Always be careful if you fish long poles, there's no power cables or nothing near you. When you look up, there's no power cables about here to worry about. But sometimes on canal banks, you do get power cables, so it's always good to keep an open mind and keep your eyes open. Very handy little gadgets when you're pole fishing. What one to use, eh? Let's just get a couple of bank sticks out. Let's put this down out of the way. Oh, now if I show you how I hook the start, you just push the sleeve back. So I've pushed it back, put the line in the hook, like that. There it's in the hook, and then you just push the sleeve, hold the line and push the sleeve back over. Perfect. The end and my casters, wrap that round there for a second, put my ground bait right behind me. Let's sit myself down, lower this net a little bit and grab my poles. Perfect. If I go like that, that's me to be cat-handed. I've got the pole round the wrong side of me, but if I look it behind me, I know there's no power cables behind me. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is push that out and put it on my pole holders and adjust them in the right position. See now, that needs adjusting more. See how the pole's going down into the water? That is. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to lower this one down a bit and see how it goes now. So I want it so the pole is actually about too much now. So the pole is actually about 5 or 6 inches off water, about like that. There we are. Now, if you're just starting pole fishing, having the pole like that is, I'll tell you what, it makes it much easier for firing your bait out, because when you first start using long poles, you do find it hard to hold the pole. I will show you how to feed holding the pole later, but you find it hard. So it's so much easier when you can just fire out to the end of your pole with both hands free. And the other thing, of course, is you've got your ground bait here. Now I'm not going to put much ground bait out today. I'm just going to put a couple of little balls to start with. So in the ground bait, I'm going to put a bit of hemp, just a little bit in one corner, and a few casters. Now I can squeeze it into a ball. I'm not going to squeeze it too hard. Put it there, because I don't think the lake's very deep. And then you can stand up and you've got both hands free to throw your ground bait exactly where you want it, right at the end of the pole, like that. So what we do, we'll give them two little bits of ground bait. Did you see how that went in the water? I mean, I'll throw this in again out. Just put this out where the ground bait is, where my float is. Well, my float's still round me, but the end of the pole, like that. Put that on the end of the pole. Now, if I throw some ground bait down the edge for you, see how it comes, what a lovely cloud it is. See how it's all clouding up? And that's what you want. Let's put this down out of the way. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is position the pole roller. So if I take this out, now what I like to do, I like to get the pole roller in a nice, easy position, so when I push the pole back, it goes onto the pole roller without thinking. So what I do, I just pull the pole back the best, in a nice, comfortable position for me, and when I get I lay the pole down, and that's where I'm going to put pole roller. So what I'll do now, I'll leave the pole there like that. I'll jump off my box, get my pole roller, leaving the pole in the same position. I'll put the pole roller here. So 2 marks, move the pole and lay the pole roller in. And now I know that when I push the pole back, that's going to be in a nice comfortable position for me. And what I'm doing, as you see, I've sloped the pole roller back, because if I have the pole roller too high in the air, what's going to happen when I take the pole apart, the pole's going to go up in the air. So I'll leave it sloped like that's nice. Now I can get back and we can do a bit of fishing. Right, put the pole on the roller and then push it back. Take the joint a bit, hook that under there so it don't go up in the air. So that's doing 2 jobs for me. Right, now what I've as I said, I'm using a float which is about 1/2 gram, and I'm using an Olivet today, and I've just got 1 dropper shot below. Now if you can see, there's 1 little dropper shot and my Olivet. Now one of the golden rules is, when you use an Olivet, especially if you don't want to tangle, is that, see this bottom, there's the Olivet, and there's me 1 shot there. It's only a small shot, that's a number 13 shot. But if I hold that number 13 in my hand, and I fetch the hook round, oh, the hook's stuck in my hand, it's so sharp, and I fetch the hook round, that hook must always be shorter than the Olivet, and then you can't tangle round the Olivet. Whereas if I had the shot there and the hook came up above the Olivet, and then you find that I'd tangle round the Olivet like that, whoops, you can't do it when you want it to. It would go over the line like that, and it'd come down, and you'd find you'd get in tangles and everything. See how it's wrapped round like that? But through having that shot down further, that don't happen. So always have the shot shorter than the Olivet when you fold it back. Right, now we've put a nice bit of bait out there, so hopefully we're going to catch some fish. Now, as you see earlier on, I fed casters. They're nice fresh casters. I only took them off last night. They're from maggots that I had over at the weekend. And the emp is what I actually cooked weekend, and I put it in the freezer, and I took it out, especially to come fishing today. What I've done though, as you can see, the emp's red. It's only red. Normally I'd leave it white, or I might even put a bit of turmeric on it when I'm going to fish it over casters and maggots, but that's what I use with bloodworms, so that's why I've dyed it red. And I've got with me an assortment of bait, which has already got a bit wet when it was raining, and it started to wiggle out the box, but I'm not worried about that. I've got rhodamine pinkies, I've got bronze maggots, and I've got red maggots. So if I put them down, and we will start off on a red maggot to see what we can get. Oh, so I'm doing all that talking, and the one most important thing I nearly forgot, and that's plumbing the depth. So if I go into my drawer here, and let's just take out a few things that I might need. A disgorger. We will definitely need a disgorger, a plummet, an homemade plummet, a pair of scissors. Right, I've got all them taken out, all little bits that I might need while I'm fishing. And if I just turn around, I've got another little box that I took out. And in this box, I've got some other little bits and pieces that I might need. Here we are. I've got my marker pen, just in case I'll need to alter the top of my float. And I've got some grease. The grease really is just in case the float is a little bit too low in the water and I want it to be a bit more proud and sit up a little bit more, then I'll use the grease. So basically they're all my little bits and pieces that I need. I'm going to shut that lid up because it keeps raining on and off, and put that there. And now we'll start off with a red maggot. I'm using a barbless hook today, but as I mentioned earlier on, if I was just starting pole fishing, I would actually use an hook with a micro barb, because what I'll do, I'll later on, hopefully we're going to catch some fish, I will show you the right way and the wrong way to play a fish on a pole and see if we lose any. But let's plumb the depth up first, and hopefully it's going to be somewhere in the region of 4 to 6 foot deep. See, all I've done is just stuck my hook in that little bit of silicone rubber and that, like that. Now how I'm going to fish today, during the winter months, the fish intend to be on the bottom, so I want the bait rather still. So what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to try and fish 4 inches over depth, so that the bait's laying on the bottom. If I have a plumb up there, now the float has disappeared, so that means that I'm too shallow. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to lift the float up and I'm going to have a plumb round, just to make sure that there's no parts of the little lake where it's different in depth near me. But I must say it's a pretty uniform depth. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a bit more depth on. So as I said, I want to have about 4 to 6 inches on the bottom, laying on over depth. Let's have another go. Plumb it there. Down we go. Ah, look at that. Now look, and see I'm holding the float up, that's down, and if I hold the float, that's before it comes off the bottom. So that float now is about 4 inches over depth. Let's just make sure. Try it in another position just to see if I was. Yeah, look at that. That's a real nice flat bottom there. So where I put that bait at about 8 metres seems to have been bang on. So right now we've plumbed the depth. See how nice and handy the pole roller is? Every time, without looking, the pole goes straight into the... Grab that and take the plummet off. Right, now we're going to put a red maggot on. As I hold the red maggot, as you look at the maggot, you've got the thin end and the fat end. Just get the thin end in between your fingers and hold the fat end, and right in the middle, just through the skin. Look at that, see that? Now you can see the maggot start to work. Look at that, see it's come to life. And you've got all the hook showing, and that's how you want it, so that when you hook the fish you don't bounce it. See that? What I'm going to do, while we're here, I'm going to whip this maggot off, pull that off, throw that to the side for the birds, and I'm going to get a caster, and I'm going to show you how to put a caster on. Right, now you hold the caster again, the fat end, you've got the little pointed end and the fat end. And if we get the hook and you hook it right in the middle, see that right in the middle, like that. See how I've done it right in the middle, and then all you do is you thread all the caster on the hook, push it round, just gently push it round, push it right the way up and push the barb of the hook into the caster. When you get the point of the pushed into the caster, twist the caster round a few times, and you'll find then the caster won't pull out, the hook won't pull out the caster. See, now if you look like that, the hook is completely and utterly vanished in the caster. There's no sign of the hook at all. And that really does help. So we'll put the caster off again, because what you find, when you feed emp and casters, you'll find that later on in the match, well, I'm not fishing a match, I should say, as you're fishing, whether you're fishing a match or you're pleasure fishing, later on in the day, you'll find that the fish gradually get more and more to like casters, and you intend to catch your better fish later on casters. So let's see how we get on first cast out. Let's have a little go now, see if we can catch anything. The be honest, we shouldn't have to wait too long today because we've already put some feed out there right from when we got here. What I'm going to do, I said to you earlier on that I would show you how to feed holding the pole. So you see I've got the pole across my knee and I'm holding it down, actually holding it with my elbow and my arm. I'll get my catty and place it in my hand. Get myself a few casters, pop them in, turn round and fire them out. Now look at that. And bite first put in. It's only a little fish. Put my pole there safe. Oh, a little gudgeon. I must admit, I didn't expect to catch a gudgeon. I didn't even know there was any in here. They are greedy little things, but it's amazing, they feed all the time. Pop that in the net, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put another red maggot on, and if I catch too many gudgeon, then I will actually change to a caster, because a caster will sort out the bigger fish. I mean, the way things are looking, as if the place has got a lot of fish in. I hope it has. I was told it's quite a few fish in here. So, out with the pole, and lay it on the water, let it sink, and this time, put a little bit more feed in. A little bit of emp this time, just a few grains. The idea of fishing is to feed little and often. Just a little grains round the float. A lot of people, they seem to go wrong. What they intend to do, especially when they start another bite. This feels like a roach. Yeah, this is a little roach. What they intend to do is that they intend to feed about once every 10 minutes and put a load in, and that is wrong. You should always feed little and often. There's a nice little roach, look at that. Only a little one, about an ounce. Use the disgorger. When you use a disgorger, just hook it down, push the mouth into the mouth careful, turn and pull out. And there it is, and you do no damage at all to the fish. I know it was only a little fish, but you don't like to hurt any fish at all because they're all the fish that we're going to hope to catch when they're a bit bigger. I'll have a few more goes. I mean, what we've been fishing, we've not been fishing more than 2 minutes. I've had 2 bites in 2 chucks. Now, I'm fishing out about 8 metres, which is longer than you can fish with a rod, and I am in perfect control of the flow. And that's the whole idea of pole fishing, is to be in control. And there's a lift bite. Oh dear me, that is a little fish, that one. They're getting smaller. They are. Take the pole apart. Oh dear me, look at that. That's on a big maggot. Now that's got to tell me to put a caster on. I'm not even going to put that in the net, poor little thing. Pop that in there, let it go away. Now I'm going to put a caster on. I'll put it on exactly how I've shown you. On some of the very hard fish waters, when I put a caster on the hook, I always put ones on that a caster is a maggot that's turned to chrysalis and sinks. But if you leave them out of water for a long while, and let's leave them in the open air, they float if they're out of water after a fair while. And they're the ones that I normally like to put on the hook when I'm fishing real hard waters, and that just counteracts the weight of the hook. So I do that in real hard waters. But we've got a caster on now, so we should have to wait a little bit longer for a bite. Keep feeding. As I said, never forget to feed. I'm only feeding half a dozen grains of emp at a time and half a dozen casters. I'm just keeping a little bit of bait going into the lake all the time. Just little weeny bits all the time. We will definitely have to wait a little bit longer for a bite now, because caster is a much slower bait, but it does intend to sort you out slightly bigger fish. They tell me that there's roach in here, there's supposed to be tench and there's supposed to be carp. I don't think if I hook a carp on this tackle I've got much chance of landing it, because I'm actually fishing an 07 main line and an 055 diameter hook length, which is equivalent to 12 ounces. So as you know, I'm fishing very light, but with the number 3 elastic that I've got on, I will fully expect to be able to land anything up to 2 pounds. So providing I play it carefully. It's definitely a lot slower on the caster, but here is a bite. Oh, I missed it. Yeah. Now, when you come in without a fish on, to make sure you don't tangle, always keep the pole low and the float and hook in the water. By doing that, you've less chance of tangling up. So keep everything low and the pole and hook in the water, and it's less chance of causing any tangles. Let's have a look. That caster's just nipped at the end. That might have been another little fish, so I'll take that off and put another caster on. Right, pop that one on. Now, the same thing applies to when you're going out. See, I've dropped the hook into the edge, and it's lucky enough it never went in the keep net. Now, I've put the pole together, and I'm pushing it out, and I'm leaving the float is just out of the water with the hook and the olivet underwater. And by doing that, you'll find again, it's completely tangle free. And you lift it out of the water when you get to where you want, and you lay it in the water. You can just, the only time, if I pull it out again, the only time that I will actually drop it in the water in an heap, you know, just drop it down like that, is when I'm fishing a venue with a load of bleak or little fish that I want to get through. But there's not a load of bleak here, and so what I'm doing, I'll take it out again and I'll lay it in the water in a long line. So I've laid it and I've laid it out so that it actually sinks in like a half moon. It sinks nice and slowly, and the fish do intend to follow the bait down because of the way it's sinking. So always remember to lay the bait out. I don't know how long we'll wait to catch any better fish, or whether we will. You can never tell with fishing. That's the beauty. It's a bite. I'll let that take it this time. There we are. It's not a big fish. Just take my time. See, I've just put the tip of the pole under the water, and I'll take it back nice and gently. Just roll it on the old roller. It makes everything nice and easy. Unjoin and lift it. That's not a bad little roach. It's the best one today. That's a couple of ounces. What a lovely little fish, eh? What a beautiful fish. It's a real nice quality fish. Look at that. Perfect condition. Drop that in, away it goes. So it looks like at the moment, caster definitely seems to be the best bait. There, I'm just feeding it out slowly, nicely running through my hands with the pole roller in position and everything. Then I just pick it up, the pole up, it's out the full distance, and I'm laying it along the water, laying it on the water, and I'm just putting the pole down onto my knee, all on my elbow, and I've got 2 hands free, and I've got perfect control on that float. The float is actually, I would say I've got 2 foot of line to 2'6" of line from the pole tip to the float, and I've got complete control. So I bite straight away. Oh, there's a nice fish. Now this is a nice fish, this one. Oh, there, look at that go, look at that go. Look at that go. That is a nice fish. That is probably going to be an 8-ounce roach at least. Oh, look at that go, look at that. Now you can see, oh dear, can you believe it? Dickie. Let's have a look what happened there. It's either done the hook length. Or the hook's pulled out. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Look at that, believe it or not, that's broke the hook. Look at that. Can you believe it? Normally after losing a fish like that, you do tend to have to wait a little bit longer for a bite. Because it does dart off through the swim, and after losing it, it's normally a little bit harder to catch another one. So we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Lay it down gently and put a bit more feed in. Half a dozen casters. There they go. Nicely round the float. And there just sit. I'm not going to work the bait, I'm going to leave it laying there over depth. I wish you could be here and have a feel how this pole feels. It's so light and stiff. It's bang on. And I'm fishing at about 8 metres, and to be perfectly honest, you just don't know you've got it in your hand. It's absolute magic, to put it mildly. This is a nice fish I've got on here. I'm getting near to packing up now, and I'll go and hook a nice fish like this. This is a good fish, a nice sized fish. Look, this is the best fish of the day. It really is a nice fish, this one. Look at that. It's a lovely fish, this one. See if I can get this one out. We lost the last decent one we had, didn't we? This is not a bad fish. I wouldn't be surprised if this ain't half a pound. It's a nice fish. Oops. Yeah, I'm taking my time with it. I don't want to lose it. Come here. Hopefully this will be a roach. It'd be nice if it was a roach. This will be about half a pound if it is or more. A nice fish. Just take your time with it. I've got to keep the line tight. Here it goes again. I'll go out with it. Don't want to lose it. So I'm only on 12-ounce line, so you don't want to lose it, do you? Once I get the pole apart, I'll lay that down there so if I need to, I can grab that quick again if it's a bigger fish than I thought when I actually see it. Oh, it is a lovely roach. It really is a lovely... I've just seen it. It's got to be close on a pound, this roach. It is an absolute beauty. Please don't come off. It is an absolute lovely roach to finish the day off with. Lay the net in the water, and I'm going to try and pull the fish actually over the net. No point in rushing it. Because if you rush it, as I say, I'm only on 12 ounce, I've got a chance of pulling the hook out. And look at that, this is over a pound, this roach. It's an absolutely gorgeous creature, to put it mildly. Just, come on, look at that, here it comes. An absolute gorgeous fish. That's mine. But that is an absolute gem of a fish. Look at that there. Let's put that gently behind. Let's pull it out. This is an absolute gorgeous fish. Every bit of a pound, maybe more. That is definitely a pound plus roach, which is a lovely specimen. Just look at that. I'm going to keep that over the net so it don't go back, just in case I drop it. Put that there. Now that is what you call a beautiful fish. Every bit of a pound. What a cracking fish. Perfect condition. Absolutely bang on. On a single cast. Look, it's even spud it up the line. Just take that off. Now you watch how easy the hook comes out. I'm using a barbless hook. And you just hold on, let's get hold of it. Just comes out, no damage at all to the fish at all with a barbless hook. Now that is what I call a lovely specimen of a fish. Perfect condition, perfect. In he goes, go on, away you go, he's a beauty, absolute beauty. Really pleased with him. That'll just about do me for the day. I'm going to call it a day on an high note. I've lost one. Probably might have been a fish similar to that, but I'm going to call it a day on a real high note. We've had a real good, enjoyable day fishing, and I've enjoyed every second of it. Thanks a lot.